Welcome to Trade Pro. In this video, I'm going to be explaining the strategy used to obtain these 1-minute time frame Bitcoin results, along with these 5-minute time frame Bitcoin results, and this 30-minute time frame Euro against the US dollar results. These backtested results prove to be quite impressive. So what I want to do is break down the exact strategy that's being used to obtain all these results, and I'm also going to break down all the features and customizable parts to this trading strategy script that you're seeing on the screen, which is available on my Patreon page, along with 10 other trading strategy scripts and additional things. You don't need to spend any money though if you don't want to. I'm going to explain the full strategy so you can apply it yourself manually, completely free of charge if you wish to do so. Now, first, I want to give a quick shout out to my affiliate Capitalize.ai before getting into things. Capitalize allows traders to create and automate their trading strategies just by typing them out in plain English. No coding knowledge required. You can simulate, backtest, and deploy strategies all from your phone, and all for free. If interested, check it out with my link in the description down below. Thank you very much. Alright, now let's go over the exact strategy being used to obtain these results on the 5-minute time frame of Bitcoin. The strategy and parameters are the exact same as the ones being used on the 1-minute time frame here for these results, also on Bitcoin, although slightly different than the settings that were used for the 30-minute time frame of Euro against the US dollar, but the same basic strategy still applies. So I will cover the exact parameters for this setup, and just know that it's very, very similar for the 30-minute time frame of Euro against the US dollar. I'll just slightly altered with some of the settings of the indicators and parameters. So let's get into it here, starting with the indicators. You will only need two basic indicators, those being the Supertrend and the MACD, although they do have altered settings, so let's take a look. For the Supertrend ATR length is set to 7, the Supertrend ATR multiplier is set to 5. For the MACD, fast length is set to 8, slow length 21, signal length 3, and source close. Now let's go over the rules for an entry. This strategy is very simple. For a long entry, you will be looking for a MACD cross to the upside that happens below the zero line of the histogram while the Supertrend is green. For a short entry, you'll be looking for a MACD cross down that happens over the zero line of the histogram while the Supertrend is red. Now for the extremely important stop loss placement, trailing stop loss method, and take profit target. So let's go into the strategy script settings so we can talk about how that is being done. So we'll scroll down here. So the stop loss placement at entry is based on the ATR, and it's set to 2.5 times the ATR. All right, so that's going to be the stop loss, and the actual ATR length is 14. So the settings on the ATR being 14 here. Now, immediately, it's going to go into a trailing stop loss at 2.5 times the ATR. So we see price go in the favor of the entry here, and immediately we get that trailing stop loss. As you can see here, it kind of climbs up here and continues to trail at 2.5 times the ATR as price moves in the favor of the trade. This will either get stopped out at this trailing stop loss in profit or at a loss, depending on how price moves, or it will eventually reach that profit target, which is set to 4 times the risk. So if risk is 2.5 times the ATR, then the profit target up here is 10 times the ATR, but the risk to reward ratio is 1 to 4 if you're doing a hard stop loss with take profit target alone. But since this has the trailing stop, a lot of the time you're going to get stopped out at the trailing stop loss in profit, slightly in profit, at a small loss, or occasionally in a strong trend you're going to see it reach all the way to that 4 times risk profit target. So now that we've gone over the exact rules for this strategy, let's go through a few more trade examples so it all makes sense. So here we see a couple short examples where first we see that MACD cross to the downside that happens over the zero line of the histogram right here. We see that there's a red super trend, so it enters into a short position as soon as that candle has closed, confirming the cross down on the MACD. We immediately see this go into a trailing stop loss, eventually having price hit the take profit target. It happens again over here for another short entry. See, we get the cross down on the MACD from over the zero line of the histogram, and then once that has closed, it goes into a short entry, and we see that trailing stop loss moving down and eventually hitting the take profit target here. I'll go over a couple more long entries, and then I'm going to get into all the specific customizable parts to this trading strategy script. Here is a long entry that is valid but does end up getting stopped out. You can see the MACD crosses up from below the zero line of the histogram here, and then price just comes down and stops it out before going up. So you're not going to win every trade. If we take a look at the backtest results here, 48% win rate, and you can just know that no matter what strategy you trade, you're going to take a lot of losses, and that's only a natural part of trading. If you don't want to take losses, then unfortunately life isn't for you. So let's go into all the specifics of this trading strategy script and kind of see all the different customizable parts. All right, so I've opened up the settings for the strategy script, and we'll just go through each thing one by one here. So at the top, we have the Supertrend settings, so you can just select the values you would like for the Supertrend ATR length and the Supertrend ATR multiplier. Standard is 10 and 3 for the default Supertrend. And then there's the ability to have the strategy only take one entry per Supertrend direction change. Or you can turn that off and the strategy can take multiple entries as long as there's a valid MACD cross and a valid green/red super trend. It can take multiple entries without the super trend flipping colors between entry. As you can see, I do have that turned on at the moment, so it's only going to enter one position per super trend color change. All right. And each of these does have a explanation for it with the little infographic here. Now, next is the MACD settings. So pretty obvious here. Already went over this with the different settings of the MACD itself. And you can also change the long/short mapping, which means you can either have it so the MACD is going to enter long when it crosses up from below the zero line, and short when it crosses down from over the zero line, or you can have it the other way around, where if the cross happens over the zero line or whatever threshold you set, it's going to take a long, and a short will only happen when the cross happens below the threshold, or zero line is what I'm talking about here, but you can choose what you want that threshold to be as well. So that is also customizable. Another thing here that I briefly talked about earlier was the exponential moving average filter. So if you turn that on, you can have an additional trend filter. So let's say the 200 EMA, where you can only take a short if price is under the 200 EMA and all the other criteria is met. And you can only take a long if price is over the 200 EMA and all the other criteria for the strategy is met. Of course, you can choose whichever exponential moving average you would like for this part of the strategy. And then some of the basic things here, such as choosing if you wanted to take both long and short, or just longs or just short entries. You can also restrict the entries to certain date range. You can do it to a certain days of the week and times of day as well. And then you can also set it to skip entries if the estimated commission is greater than the estimated profit, which you can read in here. Now let's move on down to probably the most important section here, which is the stop loss strategy, the ability to enable a dynamic stop loss, so trailing stop loss, moving the stop loss to break even, or whatever you would like to happen, and also the take profit strategy. So we'll start up top here with the different methods for stop loss placement. So it can be either ATR based, moving average of an ATR base, so kind of like a smoothed ATR value to prevent from large spikes that temporarily inflate the value of the ATR, which could cause your stop loss to be placed much too far away. Percent based, tick based, and disabled. So you have all these different options. Can customize that smoothed ATR as well with the moving average smoothing. And an additional thing that's also new is the ability to set a maximum stop loss percentage. So if we read this, you can use this as a safety net to prevent stop losses being placed way too far away from the entry price. Setting this at 10, for example, would result in the strategy never placing the stop loss further than 10% away from the entry price. So if you got one of those ATR spikes from just a massive, ridiculous candle, it places your stop loss ridiculously far away. You can save yourself from that happening by setting a maximum stop loss, and further save yourself by just using the moving average smoothed ATR that's not going to react so heavily to large price fluctuations that may inflate the ATR value temporarily and mess with your stop loss placement or take profit placement. Now, on to the next thing here is another new section here. So enabling the dynamic stop loss. And if we read this, when enabled, the stop loss will be automatically moved towards the take profit based on the logic you set below. So right in this area here, you can set it based on a few different factors, such as the ability to move, which it says right here, the stop loss will be moved once to the specified level when your configured trigger price is reached. The stop loss is only moved once per trade. So for instance, if you want this to move the stop loss 1 times your risk, once the price has moved 1 times the risk in your favor. So essentially you can move the stop loss to break even once price has gone 1 times your risk in your trade's favor. It will do that for you. Okay, and you can see how those results are. There's also the trailing stop loss. So if we read it here, the trailing stop loss will be trailing the price. During back testing, the stop loss is only moved at most once at the close of the candle. During forward testing, the stop loss is being updated with every tick. The stop loss can be moved any number of times throughout the trade. So if the trailing stop loss, you can have it trail based on your stop loss strategy set up here. And you can also choose if you want it to have trailing active always, if you want it to only go after moving the stop loss, or after price moves. And what these things are talking about is based on what is showing right here. So if you say after price moves 1%, then start trailing based on the parameter chosen up here, or once it moves 1 times the risk, then start trailing the stop loss. So there's just so many different options here. And you can also choose to have it both move and trail, so the stop loss will be changed by both the moving and the trailing mechanisms that you have selected here. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. This is a new section that we have just had implemented. Stratfather put in the work on this one, and it looks really awesome. It's really cool. So gives you a lot of different options with trailing stop loss, moving the stop loss to break even, moving the stop loss however you want to set it to move, and just all these different things that you can try out. Very cool. So take profit strategy. And this, again, going over pretty much the same thing that I went over with the stop loss strategy. You have all these different options for how you wish to set the take profit target. Okay. And there's these other options as well down below, which we have had on the other trading scripts, so I'll quickly go through them. You can close the position early if the price crosses a certain moving average. So let's say if price goes under the 50-period exponential moving average, you want to exit your long position. You can have it do that. You can have it close after a certain number of minutes or close your position upon reaching the end of the trading session, which you will have to set what that trading session is. Then we have the custom order size settings. So custom order size settings I've gone over in all of the strategy script videos, but for this one I had it set to risking 2% of the equity per trade. You can set it to risk a certain amount of contracts, cash, percent of equity, or percent risk of equity. I always prefer percent risk of equity myself. And you can also tell it to allow infinitely large position size, limit position value to the account size, or skip entry if you can't afford the desired position size. All right. So that goes over probably one of the most important sections here with altering the results. Apart from up here with the Supertrend MACD settings and putting in the EMA filter, one of the biggest things that affects the strategy results is stop loss placement, take profit target, trailing stop method, moving the stop break even, things like that really is going to affect the results of a strategy. So last, we will just kind of go over the alert section down here, so you can set up webhooks if you wish to set it up with an automated trading service, or just set basic alerts to give you alerts when a signal is given from the strategy. You can set it up to alert you, get an alert to your phone if you have the TradingView app, or email alerts, text alerts. So you have the different things that are going to allow you to make use of the trading strategy script. So that is one of the things that makes it really worthwhile, being able to test all these different things, get the alerts, or set it up with a automated trading service. So yeah, that is pretty much covering all the main things. Of course, you can customize how this widget looks, get rid of certain parts of it, and but most of this stuff we've gone over in the other strategy script release videos. So I'll just thank you again for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.